Okay, nice. Nice. All right. So, but yeah, I fucked up. I got into a little bit of trouble, so I had to, pay out of pocket. I got in trouble for it. I got pulled over, and that was not fun. So I scrounged some money together, sold a piece of my collection. I was like, money feels good in my pocket. I think I would like more of that. And then, I started selling more and more and more, and I was like, But I also haven't been playing like MTG or like cEDH lately, and yeah, I feel good. I like hanging out. I just like hanging out, playing video games, playing keyboard, you know what I mean? Like I said in my last video, where I gave you guys an update. But I'm starting at Ground Zero arc, and what that means is I'm going to be playing decks that are very true to me and what I believe in as a cEDH player, and things that I'm actually really fucking good at. Which is very exciting for me. Not excited for you guys, because you guys are gonna fucking lose a lot. But it's gonna be a fun little arc where I play in cEDH tournaments and I play a little bit more seriously, because I'm basically playing to get pieces of my collection back, which is the reason why I'm calling it the Ground Zero arc. Because I'm starting from Ground Zero, where I don't have everything that I have anymore. Plus, all the bans and everything that have taken place makes it so that the meta is at this really weird place where everybody's just trying to figure things out. It's not really defined. I have to switch up my whole playstyle, and I have to reinvent my playstyle. And, Ground Zero, working from, bottom and reinventing the whole playstyle and everything that I've been building and working on. Like every other deck that I've built before is pretty much obsolete because of these bans, with the exception of a few. I did update Narset. Narset is updated, and it's also on the cEDH decklist database if you want to go check that out and support it. Without further ado, let's get into the video. Yo! What's up? It's your boy Kai, aka Fervent Alchemist, and I'm back with a double deck tech. If you like what I'm doing here on the channel and you want to support me now and or in the future, you can support me on tcgplayer.com at the affiliate link below, or you can subscribe to my Patreon below. I can't really offer anything, but if you want to support me directly, you can go ahead and subscribe to the Patreon. You can just pay whatever you want. I don't care. If you want to just sign up and just do it for $0 just for the fucking meme, cool with it. Yeah, man, it's back. It's good to be back, yo. I'm just here. I've been fucking around playing a bunch of, decks. And I've been trying a lot of new stuff. And I haven't been making videos because I was going crazy, ripping my hair out, trying to figure out, what I want to play. So right now, or when I started playing again, I was originally playing Dog Side, which is a Esper turbo deck. And then you got over here Boogaloo Shrimp, which is Yoshimaru and Raihan. So
that the fucking gas.
You got Yoshimaru and Silas, Dog Silas. And then you got over here Yoshimaru, Raihan, Boogaloo Shrimp. I call this Boogaloo Shrimp because when I originally made the deck, I moved from Yoshimaru and Silas to Yoshimaru Raihan because I wanted to try out Abzan. But the reason why I wanted to play this deck is because I really, really, really love Bad Farm, which is Timna, Ikra. I actually consulted Leptis about this deck, so he actually gave his input. But I called it Boogaloo Shrimp because Electric Boogaloo for the second version of the deck. But people like to make the joke that the second coming or second version of something is the Electric Boogaloo, like Yoshimaru, Electric Boogaloo. They printed a new Yoshimaru or whatever. But I called it Boogaloo Shrimp after the movie Electric Boogaloo. The person who plays Turbo in Electric Boogaloo is named Boogaloo Shrimp. But I'll throw up a reference whenever I get a chance. But Boogaloo Shrimp is one of the people who invented the Boogaloo, which is a style of dance. And because
This is the second iteration of Bad Farm. I call it Boogaloo Shrimp. Dog Sai, straightforward dogs. Woof woof. Got Boogaloo Shrimp, Abzan, Turbo Nos. Both of these are Turbo Nos decks side by side. So let's just pop into it. We're gonna go over the creatures. Each deck has like, it's pretty much the same archetypally, or if that's a fucking word, archetypally. That it's just the same deck. It's just that they're both pretty lean in the areas of what they want to do. I actually updated both of these lists at the same time, which is why I'm doing the video at the same time. So with the new bannings that happened, so there's no Mana Crypt, no Dockside, you can kind of while out now, and people are looking for that replacement of, you know, going fast and doing everything in a burst, I guess in a burst of mana. People are just making burst-worthy plays. People are looking for replacements. I think I had a homie, he hit me up maybe like a month ago, and he started playing Dogside because he was like, yeah, I don't know what else to play in Esper because everything else costs so much mana. I don't really want to play anything else, and I really like Esper, so they moved over to, you know, Dogside. And with that, I made updates to both decks. Dogside, which is Yoshimaru, Silas, and then the other deck, which is Yoshimaru, Rayhan. So we got an Abzan and an Esper deck on here. So let's go over the creatures. They're, like I said, they're pretty similar in what they do, except one's more balls to the wall and the other one's a little bit more balls to the wall, but it has a safety net. And that's what Abzan's really good at. So I'll say the Esper one is very like balls to the wall. If you lose, you lose. Who cares? Just send it. Just win type shit.
Type shit. Type shit. Type shit.
Yep. You can hold your own. It's pretty resilient, and that's what green is really good at. It's good at being resilient. And as you can see here, green also provides a lot of creatures. I got 10 creatures on the left, and I got 17 creatures on the right, so you get 7 extra additions. So in place of mana, in comparison to Yoshimaru Rayhan, I have Blood Pet over here because I don't have any we don't have any dorks in these colors, and like, you know, we want to make mana, we want to make a lot of it, and Blood Pet's going to help you by being patient. So with Yoshimaru Silas, the core of the deck is just being patient and just playing your cards and playing very surgical. And on the right, you can fuck up a little bit with Rayhan. You can mess up a little bit, and the deck's gonna catch you, and that's why it's so resilient. But with Silas, you gotta actually think about the things that you're doing and play out everything in a very intentional way. You're gonna have to use your words sometimes. You might have to, you know, politic your way into, you know, a couple of wins maybe. But either way, yeah, you're gonna have a pretty good time with either deck. They're archetypally the same deck, but you have to play them differently, if that makes sense. So, like I said, Birds of Paradise can be in direct contrast to Blood Pet. They both take a turn to net mana, except Blood Pet is more expendable, which means you're gonna have to just, you know, use it once. You're gonna have to think about the rest of the game and if sacrificing Blood Pet is worth it. Whereas Birds of Paradise has that resilience, sticks around turn after turn after turn because they share white. You got Esper Sentinel in both lists. And to compensate for the lack of creatures, you're going to get a bunch of card draw because they're also in blue. So we got Polywall Prodigy. And I guess you got Thassa's Oracle, which is another win condition. And as you can see here, in Rayhan, there's a lot of win conditions here. So you got Walking Ballista, Forsaking Mire, Blood Artist, Orcish Bowmasters can sometimes be seen as a win condition, but I don't run any wheels, and you know, you kind of want that in blue, which is why you have Orcish Bowmasters over here, because you get Windfall on this side. You got Witherbloom Apprentice, which is another combo, can be akin to Thassa's Oracle, but I will also say that Witherbloom Apprentice is much faster than Thassa's Oracle. Because you can produce black mana and all you need is 1 green. So typically, say like if you're living in the magical world of Perfect Hands, you can start your turn with a black source. You can have an Elvish Spirit God in your hand, and you can also have Witherbloom Apprentice and Chain of Smog, which is the combo for the deck. Once you have Witherbloom Apprentice on the field, you can cast your Chain of Smog, target yourself, and then you're going to go ahead and discard all the cards out of your hand to drain all of your opponents. Even throughout 1 ring protection, you're still going to go ahead and get that win. So the reason why I say this is easier than Thassa's Oracle is because you can just play your Lantern 1, Dark Ritual, exile Spirit Guide from your hand, play the Witherbloom Apprentice, and then cast a Chain of Smog, and then boom, they're dead. The reason why Thassa's Oracle can be considered as better than Witherbloom Apprentice is because once Witherbloom Apprentice goes in the stack, the trigger goes in the stack, and people have to worry about the trigger. With Witherbloom Apprentice and Chain of Smog on the stack, both of those, like, you're going to have Witherbloom Apprentice on the field, and you can still remove Witherbloom Apprentice, and then they can just lose. You can wait till they discard all the cards out of their hand. You can still counter it. And that's why it's super susceptible, but it's very, very, very easy to get out as opposed to Thassa's Oracle, which is a little bit harder to interact with. But both combos are very good, and those are the mirror between the Esper and the Abzan deck. I did cut Lotho in this deck because this deck makes a lot of mana somehow. I don't know what the play pattern is, but Lotho in this deck is a little slow, and you would think the Abzan decks are going to be, because it's in green, you're going to make the most mana. It's usually not the case, and I think that's just within the play patterns. Usually, because I'm used to playing Raihan in Yoshimaru, I'm usually mulliganing and looking for mana, and that's usually what I'm looking for. Like, ideally, as a cEDH player, I'm looking for mana, and I'm looking for a payoff. With Silas, I'm usually looking for mana and a payoff, and usually I just end up with just mana. But there's much more payoffs in Esper, so usually I'm willing to concede that I can have a handful of mana that just does everything that I want it to do, and I'm willing to bank and pray on the deck to fall through for me. And just to follow through for me and just reveal that Adnal's at the top, or that Bolas' Citadel, or that Necropotence. I'm more than willing to wait until to see that go through. I trust the deck more in Esper because there's things like Rhystic Study and Mystic Remora in deck. Both decks also play Opposition Agent and Scheming Symmetry, which is pretty cool. Ranger Captain, of course. There's not too many things you can pick up with Ranger Captain in the Esper version, like Blood Pet, Esper Sentinel, and but this one, in the Abzan version, you can pick up Walking Ballista, which is a combo piece, Forsaken Mire, which is a combo piece. This one has a card advantage engine, which is 6, and it also technically is the Underworld Breach of the deck. The left side is the Valley Floodcaller and the High Fate Trickster, because this deck is going balls to the wall. You're trying to land at Necropotence and just go off in the end step. And like I said, you have to play smart. You have to play surgically. You have to do everything you can to make sure that your win is going to come out on top. You have to, use your brain a little bit more. Whereas this deck on the right, Raihan and Yoshimaru, is going to catch you when you fail. So for both decks, actually, they're the one on the right runs more sorceries, and you would think the one on the left would run a little bit more sorceries because it's an Esper. But you got Gitaxian Probe, Imperial Seal. Both decks share Imperial Seal. Scheming Symmetries, because they both share the Opposition Agent backup combo, or you can do that first. You got Demonic Tutor. Both decks. Chain of Smog, like I said, for the other combo. Mnemonic Betrayal, which is a very similar combo. After you're done, controlling the game, you might want to pick up where everybody left off and try to win the game for yourself. You got Praetor's Grasp in one deck. This deck does not have a need for Praetor's Grasp, but it could run it. This deck also has Demonic Council. This one gets Delirium very quickly, as in opposition, the Esper deck is not getting Delirium because it wants to hold cards in hand. The Abzan deck wants to just play everything out as quickly as possible and use all its resources. So you're gonna get Delirium a little bit quicker on the right deck. It was Infernal Tutor because I was just playing out you just get to play out your hand super quickly, and Infernal Tutor just becomes like, you know, just a regular Demonic Tutor. They get you one card. Yeah, because it's an excellent tutor. But I think Demonic Council is a little bit more safer. It doesn't get you in a demon in deck because there's no demons in the deck. It's just, you know, a conditional tutor. But Demonic Council is here to stay. I think it's pretty good since you can acquire Delirium pretty easily in this deck. One deck has Yawgmoth's Will because it's very spells based. This deck does not have a Yawgmoth's Will. It has a 6 and it has a Lurrus, and that's usually enough to get your creature win conditions off. And it also has a Culling Ritual as an added bonus because that card is pretty good. Culling Ritual is very good. 3 Visits is here to replace a rock, like a 2-mana rock. We're going to get to the rocks later, but 3 Visits is here to, you know, dig into your deck, which is very cool.
Hey, post-editing Alchemist here, just letting you know that 3 Visits was replaced by Malevolent Rumble.
Of course, the Esper version has a lot more instants because they're also running counterspells in here. I'm not going to go over every single counterspell, but what I will go over are the cards that share each deck's, or I'll say like I'll go over like the main focus of each deck. The reason why we're running Yoshimaru in the command zone is because you have access to white. So what you do is you can play your land turn 1, get your Yoshimaru out, and then you can drop your Mox Amber, and then which usually akin to other Rogue side pilots, their Mox Amber turns on for red. And you can do like Rite of Flame, you can do like Jessica's Will. If you have other mana you can use. Red mana is very relevant in each deck with Rograk, and it's usually only 1 pip. So for each deck, I had to focus white into the package of the deck. So Angel's Grace is a really good card because 1 white, split second, can't lose the game. I don't know how often you play cEDH, but not losing the game is very good. So usually you use it when somebody goes like Thassa's Oracle, Demonic Consultation, and you're like, cool, Angel's Grace in response to the trigger, and then they have no library and you don't lose, they can't win, there's nothing they can do. They have to pass the turn. And between each deck, since white is so relevant and you're going to be making a lot of mana for both decks, you can cast your Angel's Grace and do a little old school combo, which is Angel's Grace and Adnaz. Once you Angel's Grace, it'll put you at a negative life to if you want to, you know, go ahead and draw your deck. Or you want to just Adnaz for your whole deck. You're going to go to a negative life, but at the end of the turn, if you were to pass turn, you will die. But since you can't lose the game, you can just go ahead and stay at a negative life total and you just pick up your whole deck. You can't lose. And if anybody tries to draw you out during that turn, you're not going to lose anyway. So it's usually pretty safe to just take everything into your hand and then go ahead and try to win from there. And with that in mind, we're also running Flare of Fortitude. That's also the reason why we're running Yoshimaru in the command zone. You can just cast Flare of Fortitude for free because Yoshimaru is a white creature. Non-token white creature actually, and you can just go ahead and cast your Adnaz and then pick up your whole deck because your life total can't change. So cool cards that are also in each deck. I believe Emerald Charm is a really cool card. I think this is the better Necropotence deck for some reason. I think the Abzan version is the better Necropotence deck because you get to run Emerald Charm, so sometimes you just have to play your Emergent Zone. You can just go ahead and untap Exile Spirit Guide from your hand, Emerald Charm, untap your Emergent Zone, and then go ahead and crack it, and then boom, you win. You might have to untap a Mana Vault or something to add some extra mana. You could pretty much untap anything. You can untap any target permanent. It's super good. Now, I'm going to say this, but Esper is for smart players. Sometimes I don't do as well in this deck because I'm not super smart as some people think, but like I think you gotta have the aptitude. You gotta be ready. You gotta be mentally prepared to play Esper on some of these days. You can't just relax and just play Esper and, you know, send it. You gotta be mentally prepared. You gotta be mentally prepared to play the long game, the short game, any kind of game. You have to adapt. But that's the thing about counter spells. You have to cast them at the right moment. And then both decks also have Path to Exile and Orm Chant. These are actually unusual additions because since white is so relevant, and you can usually often make one white with Mox Amber and Yoshimaru, I added Path to Exile and Orm Chant just so we can have access to the Orm Chant, Path to Exile, Silence, and things of that nature. Scout's Warning and Quicken on the Esper deck, because once you rip like 30 cards off the the Necropotence or the Necrodominance, you might not have everything you need in hand. So Quicken is there, so you can go ahead and Quicken, cast your Dark Ritual, and maybe tap some extra mana and go ahead and get a Beseech the Mirror, bargain it, and then cast your Born Upon the Wind, so you can go ahead and win there. The Esper version has a lot more access to instant speed spells or instant speed enablers. The Abzan version does not. It only has Emergent Zone. And somehow, I don't know why. Don't be mad at me. Don't be mad at the pilot. Don't be mad at the brewer. It just doesn't make any sense to me. But I've only ever had Emergent Zone in the right version of the deck, in the Abzan version of the deck, and it's worked every single time. I've always gotten the Emergent Zone out whenever I've Necropotenced in that deck, and there's so many different enablers in there, it's insane. So in the Esper version, we have Scout's Warning over here, because sometimes you don't have everything you want. Like I said, one white is very relevant because of Mox Amber, and you have Yoshimaru. You can cast Scout's Warning, so you can flash in your Thassa's Oracle, and then you can go ahead and consult right after that. And that's the reason why this deck's very surgical. You really have to think about this. So like I would say is practice with the Esper version. Goldfish as many times as you need to. So it's like riding a bike. And also one card that I want to put everybody onto is Surgical Extraction. I'm going to go ahead and read off Surgical Extraction here. All right, so we got Surgical Extraction up here. Choose target card in the graveyard other than the basic land card. Search its owner's graveyard, hand, and library for any number of cards with the same name as that card and exile them. That player shuffles. This is the hotness. I'm putting y'all on. This card is insane. And I say that because the difference between the Abzan version and the Esper version is that the Esper version can play Gitaxian Probe. And why do people play Gitaxian Probe? Is because they want to take a peek at somebody's hand and also get the card advantage. So now, since the Abzan version is a little bit more bare bones, and we don't have interaction here, we only have Silence, we only have Grand Abolisher, we only have those kind of effects, and Veil of Summer as well. We just use Surgical Extraction to take a peek at somebody's hand. So what you can do is exile any card out of somebody's graveyard that you're suspicious of, as long as it's not a basic land. They go ahead and exile. They say, okay, sure, whatever. Who plays Surgical Extraction, right? And then you say, cool, let me see your hand. Let me search your hand. And they say, oh. You go ahead and look at their hand, and they're like, oh, okay. Like, well, okay, let's take a look at this. You've drawn 20 cards off a Ristic Study, and there's no interaction here? That's peculiar. All right, great. So I guess I'll go ahead and send this Adnals now. All right, great. Also, there's cards like Intuition, Underworld Breach. The typical Underworld Breach pile is LED, Savine's Reclamation, Underworld Breach. And then they go ahead and give them Lion's Eye Diamond. So when they go ahead and crack that Lion's Eye Diamond, you can go ahead and say, hey, in response to you casting Savine's Reclamation for its flashback cost, you can Surgical Extraction the Underworld Breach, and then they don't win. Seems great, right? Here's another one. So there's Kenrith. Kenrith is also a graveyard deck that has a reanimation strategy. You can go ahead and remove, I don't know, maybe like maybe a whole break of horror if you want. If they're playing that now, you can Basically, fuck up a tie-in deck. If they have a wall roots in the graveyard, they have any kind of combo piece in the graveyard, you can just go ahead and delete it from the game. And like I said, those are all the applications of surgical extraction. Beyond it, just being a 60 card limited card, you can just go ahead and just exile so much stuff. But at the bare minimum, at its floor, you get to take a peek at somebody's hand at instant speed. That's insane. Everybody should be on this card. If you're in black, just be on it. If you're in turbo, you should be on it because you get to just take a peek. You're like, all right, cool, it's safe to go off now, and then go ahead and send it. And you don't even have to do it on your main phase. And that's the cool part about it is you can just wait till end step, surgical extraction somebody, take a look, and then go ahead and play a safe turn and then pass the turn, and not have to send it so bullheaded into whatever Mystic Study there is or any counter magic there is. You can just play it safe. I think both decks share Tainted Pacts. Of course, like I said, there's more interaction, so both decks technically have interaction, which is, I just went off about surgical extraction, but Abzan also does have interaction in the form of Abrupt Decay. It also has surgical, Orm Chant, Silence, Emerald Charm. Emerald Charm also destroys a non-aura enchantment, so you can just get rid of the Mystic Study if you want to. Whenever you're trying to go off. Like I said, Flare is also a card that you can use in the face of Nagila or you could use it in the face of Nagila, you can use it in the face of Winota, you can use it in the face of anybody who's trying to just kill you with damage or they're trying to target you with Brain Freeze or anything like that, because Flare also gives you hexproof. The Emergent Zone is super fucking potent in the Abzan version of the dog list. Is because of Swell of Growth. Let's see if I can pull it up here like this. View details. Ooh, that works. Nice. All right, so you got Swell of Growth. Swell of Growth is a 1 and a green instant target creature you control. Target creature, not you control. Target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. You may put a land from your hand onto the battlefield. So it's an instant. You go ahead and rip your Necropotence for who God knows what. And you go ahead and exile your Spirit Guide from your hand. Maybe you tap your mana, like a Soul Ring or something, and then you cast Swell of Growth targeting maybe Yoshimaru or an opponent's creature. And then you go ahead and put your Emergent Zone into play, crack it, and then boom, you can go ahead and try to win. Go ahead and try to win. Because the Esper version doesn't have anything like that because it's not in green. You don't get Swell of Growth in Esper. The cool thing about Swell of Growth is you can hit it off your Necropotence, and since it's an instant, you can just go ahead and cast it at your end step. But like I said, the Esper version also has a bunch of flash enablers. You can also just cast a Born Upon the Wind instead of a Swell of Growth. Let's move on to the rocks. So we got, standard rocks for the Esper version. All they did was make mana. Wandering, Wish Call, Talisman, standard. And as for the Abzan version, you have standard rocks. There's a Sensei's Top, Vexing Bauble for interaction, and Agatha's Soul Cauldron, which I just added in. Because I'm also on the Heliod Ballista combo, Yoshimaru can trigger off of any legendary permanent that enters the battlefield under your control. Agatha's Soul Cauldron being one, so it automatically gets a counter as soon as you pop this Agatha's Soul Cauldron down. You can just go ahead and start exiling stuff and building up, swinging with Yoshimaru and Rayhan, and you can go ahead and do other stuff. You can also turn them into Walking Ballistas if you want. You can turn your commanders into Walking Ballistas. I've never done that. I haven't even played the card yet, but the idea behind it is that both your commanders have 1 counters on them. They can get the maximum amount of value out of it. You got 6 in the deck. Could also just exile stuff out of your graveyard, which is very cool. There's other creatures in the deck that they can gain the abilities of, and I think that's really cool. Phyrexian Altar, because it's part of a combo piece with the Miner at the beginning of the deck that I saw here. I've also been thinking about running this in the in the Esper version because it's just easy to put out. This Forsaken Miner, Blood Artist, and Phyrexian Altar, or Worn Soul Trader in place of Phyrexian Altar. So what happens here is, I'm going to go ahead and read the combo. So Forsaken Miner is a 1 black creature skeleton rogue. It can't block. Whenever you commit a crime, you may pay black. If you do, return Forsaken Miner from your graveyard to the battlefield. And then this works with Blood Artist. Blood Artist is a 1 and a black. Whenever a Blood Artist or another creature dies, target player loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So that would be committing a crime. Once you target your opponents to lose a life, you're committing a crime. And once that crime's been committed, that sounds so weird. Once that crime's been committed, so what you're going to do is you're going to sacrifice the miner to Phyrexian Altar. You're going to target your opponent with the Blood Artist trigger. That's going to create a crime. You could also play Worn Soul Trader. Worn Soul Trader is a 2 and a black creature, zombie, goblin, wizard. Pay 1 life, sacrifice another creature, create a treasure token. The reason why Bolsa Citadel is in the Abzan version as opposed to the Esper version is because you can just send the Bolsa Citadel in the Abzan version and you're not going to run into any counterspell. Anybody who loves Bolsa Citadel knows that if you run a deck with counterspells and you just try to pop this Bolsa Citadel as quickly as possible, you're going to hate that. Once you give everybody a turn to prepare for your Bolsa Citadel, you're cooked. And I can also attest that sometimes I've hit multiple lands off the top in the Abzan version, but it always happens so fast that people just, they don't know what to do. But since there's so many counterspells in the Esper version, you're more likely to run into more and more and more. And in addition to that, you're going to run into lands. And so there's more things to run into that's not going to get you very far. But yeah, you got Bolsa Citadel in the Abzan version because it's more potent. We're going to move into enchantments. Yeah, so you got typical Mystic Remora. Both decks share Static Prison. One deck is on Necrodominance and the other one's on Necropotence. The reason why the Esper version is on Necrodominance and Necropotence is because the one on the right is also technically a graveyard deck, and if I go ahead and exile any pieces, they're not coming back. It's also running Animate Dead as opposed to Reanimate because I'm running 6, and you can go ahead and cast Animate Dead, retrace it, and go ahead and bring back whatever you want. It also works very well because even if you don't have anything in your graveyard, if your opponents have something in their graveyard, you can go ahead and reanimate their stuff too. It's 1 white, it's enchantment. When Static Prison enters the battlefield, exile target non-land permanent and opponent controls until Static Prison leaves the battlefield. You get 2 energy. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, sacrifice Static Prison unless you pay an energy. So the reason why I'm running this as opposed to the other artifacts ones is because it just comes down unconditionally. And I really like that about the card. It just hits any non-land permanent that opponent controls. You can't swat it to anything that you control. And it doesn't require you to sacrifice any of your stuff to go ahead and get this out. So there's a few lands I'm going to go over for each deck. You got Cephalid Coliseum in the Esper version of the deck. Like I said, the deck needs card draw. It also works with Bone Master. You can just make somebody draw 3 cards and you can go ahead and ping down something or someone. It also stops a Thassa's Oracle win if you have Threshold. That's the only way you can activate Cephalid Coliseum is if you have Threshold. You got Boseiju on the right in the Abzan deck because, of course, why wouldn't you want to run Boseiju? This is also a legendary land. You got to take note of that. Once you get Yoshimaru out, sometimes you want to hold your legendary lands back because it'll pump it up, and then Yoshimaru can block for you. And then for the left, we got Undercity Sewers because we value that card selection. On the right, you have Shifting Woodlands because, like I said, this is a graveyard deck as well. One cool ass line that I found when I was playing this deck was, I don't know how early this is. Whenever you get Delirium, you can play your Shifting Woodlands. You can sack your exile your Spirit Guide, play your LED, And then maybe if you have like 7 cards in hand, and you definitely do have Delirium, you can sack your whole hand to LED, and then activate Shifting Woodlands, and then turn it into a Bolus's Citadel. You could probably do that on turn 1, and then you can go ahead and get your turn 1 Bolus's Citadel, but you gotta fucking send it. There's no way out of this. You gotta know that you're gonna win after that one. But it's very cool. You could get stops. Who knows? You could get stopped. You could, but actually, you probably couldn't get stopped because you're turning your land into a fucking Bolus's Citadel. That's insane. Yeah, and that's it for both of these decks. If you enjoy the content here over on the channel, go ahead and give me a big old like and subscribe if you can. And also check out the links below. I do have the Patreon down there, like I said earlier. I can't offer you guys anything. It's mostly just a tip service. If you do enjoy the content, like I said, you can give me whatever you want or nothing at all, as long as you're there supporting. I greatly appreciate it. TCG player link down below. Also have Discord if you want to hop in the Discord and ping me about stuff. And yeah, I'll catch y'all later. Peace.